Hello students, I am Dr. Sangeeta Singh from JDV Government Girls College Kota. I am going to teach you General English for BSc Part 1. In the previous video, I had given you an introduction to syllabus and had started the first story from the textbook. The name of the story is The Child. I had also given some sample questions along with some important study tips. Now I am continuing the story, and for your convenience, I am reading the text aloud for you. After a certain slot, I shall be summarizing and explaining the important points. So now I start reading it aloud for you. This is a story by Munshi Premchand. Premchand was the pen name of Dhanpat Rai Srivastava, a great Hindi short story writer and novelist. He was born in a village near Benares, and his childhood and youth was marked by extreme poverty and domestic problems. He was well versed in both Hindi and Urdu, growing up as he did in an environment where both languages were used. As a writer, Premchand was deeply influenced by Gandhi, Tolstoy, Gorky, Victor Hugo, and Romain Rolland. He disregarded all social taboos and married Shivani Devi, a child widow. He gave up his government job in 1920 when Gandhi launched the non cooperation movement and immersed himself in political and literary writing instead. This accentuated his intimate knowledge of rural India. Premchand had a progressive outlook and brought a new sense of social awareness to fiction. He is considered one of the outstanding short story writers of world literature, with more than 300 short stories in Hindi and Urdu to his credit. His literary writings reflect the harsh life of Indian peasant with empathy and insight. Premchand depicts the peasant as being caught in the web of inhuman landlords. So, this was the brief introduction to the writer's life and his writings, and how he was influenced by Gandhi, what he did to our political scenario in the times of our struggle to independence. Now, the text of the story is being started. These are the opening lines which I am going to speak to you. I am reading them aloud. They are the opening lines. People call Gangu a Brahmin. He considers himself one, too. All my other servants bow to me, but Gangu never greets me like this. Probably he expects me to bow to him. He never touches any of the used utensils. I lack the courage to ask him even to fan me in the hot weather. Sometimes, when nobody else is around and I am dripping with perspiration, he does pick up a fan, but his attitude is that he is doing me a great favor. He is short tempered and cannot tolerate even the slightest rebuke. He has very few friends and considers it below his dignity to sit with the sais or the bearer. I have never seen him being friendly with anyone, nor does he ever go to a fair or a show. He is not even fond of bhang, which is a common addiction among people of his class. So now we see This was the introduction to the protagonist, the hero of this story, in simple words. And the name of the person is Gangu. And because he is a Brahmin, he thinks him superior to other servants, and he thinks himself to be privileged. So, this was the introduction of his attitude, his habits, and his behavior towards the outer world where he was living with the writer. The writer himself is narrating the story in first person. Now, the another traits of his personalities: he never prays, nor does he go for a bath in the river, and he is completely illiterate. Yet he expects all the respect due to a Brahmin. Why shouldn't he? If other people can claim respect on the basis of wealth left to them by their forefathers, surely Gangu can also claim respect on account of his ancestry. I do not talk to my servants except when it is necessary. They have strict instructions not to invade my privacy unless they are sent for. Some small matters as getting a glass of water or putting on my shoes or lighting the lamp, I prefer to do myself rather than send for them. It gives me a feeling of independence and self reliance. The servants know my habit by now and they seldom bother me. If they ever pay an unsolicited visit to me, it is either that they want an advance against their salary or that they wish to complain about their servants. Both these practices I consider reprehensible. When I pay them regularly and enough, I do not see any reason why they should finish a month's salary in 15 days. Now, the writer is telling about his own habits and his attitude towards the servants. In this clip, he is telling us this fact. And he doesn't like backbiting, so I consider a sign of weakness or a mode of flattery, both of which are ignoble. So he doesn't like backbiting also. One morning, Gangu came to me without being sent for. I felt annoyed and asked him irritably what he had come for. From Gangu's face, it appeared that he wanted to say something, but in spite of his best efforts, the words refused to come to the lips. I said again after a little pause, "What is the matter? Why don't you speak out? You know it is getting late for my morning walk." Gangu replied haltingly, "Please do not delay yourself. I shall come some other time." This was worse. I knew. Now that I was in a hurry, Gangu would cut short his tale. If he had come when he thought I had more leisure, he would perhaps waste my time for hours. Now, the author is telling about his unexpected visit and Gangu's hesitating attitude. The author is laying stress on because the author was in a hurry to go for a morning walk. So he was not expecting such type of hurdles in his plan. He only considered me busy when I was reading or writing. When he found me just alone, sitting in a contemplative mood, he thought that I was merely idling, and it was almost certain that he would inflict himself on me in one of those moments, little realizing how precious they were for me. So, though the contemplative moments for a writer are very precious for him, and he doesn't like any type of disturbance in such phases. I wanted to dispose of him right then and said, if you have come for an advance, you can rest assured that you will not get it. The author says that if he wanted some money, he was not in a mood to give him anymore. I do not want an advance, said Gangu. I had never asked you for one. Then you must be wanting to complain against someone. I said, you know how I hate backbiting. No, sir, said Gangu. I have no complaints against anyone. What have you come to bother me about then? I asked impatiently. Gangu made another attempt to disclose his secret. I could see from his face that he was trying to muster up strength to do it. So neither Gangu had come for an advance nor he was going to complain against somebody, but he was gathering his courage to put forth some points before the author. He was going to disclose some secret, but he was hesitating. He did not have much courage to disclose that secret. At last he said, I wish to be relieved of my duties, sir. I shall not be able to serve you any longer. This was the first request of its kind, and I felt hurt. I was considered an ideal employer, and the servants thought it their good fortune to stay on with me. Why do you want to leave? I asked. You are the image of kindness, sir. Who would want to leave you unless there were very good reasons? I find myself in a situation which leaves me with no other alternative. I do not want people to raise their fingers at you on my account. This was most intriguing. I forgot all about my morning walk. So, something very unexpected came before the author, and Gangu wanted to leave his job. He wanted to resign. So, it was very much unexpected for the author. Because he was thought to be a good employer, and servants were satisfied with him. So he asked why Gangu was going to leave him. Then Gangu accepted that the master was good. He was an image of kindness, and but there was some problem with his own part. So the author by now had forgot about his morning walk because the conversation was so engaging and so unexpected that the author forgot all about his morning walk. And seating myself in a chair, I said, why do you talk in riddles? Why don't you say clearly what is on your mind? Gangu replied haltingly again, sir, the thing is that woman who has just been turned out of the widow's home, that Gomti Devi, and he stopped without finishing the sentence. I asked impatiently. So Gangu was hinting about a widow who was staying in a widow's home, and her name was Gomti Devi. What has she to do with your job? I want to marry her, sir, said Gangu. Gangu said that he wanted to marry Gomti Devi. I looked at him in sheer bewilderment. How had this old fashioned Brahmin, who had not even been touched by modern civilization, decided to marry a woman whom no self respecting man would even allow near his house? Gomti had created quite a stir in the placid atmosphere of our mohalla. She had entered the widow's home some years ago. Twice the home authorities had got her married off, but both times she had come back after a week or so. Ultimately, the home had decided to expel her. She had now taken a room in the mohalla and was an object of great interest to all the lovelorn young men. Now, the conversation between the author and the servant Gangu goes on, and he is taken aback. The author is taken aback to hear that Gangu wanted to marry that woman named Gomti Devi, and the reason behind this bewilderment was that the woman had a bad reputation and she was expelled from a widow's home some years ago, and she had come to live in their society, and the widow's home had tried to marry her off for two times, but she had come back after a week or so. She could not sustain her marriages and she had a bad reputation. She was gripped around with rumors. So the author was somewhat bewildered by Gangu's decision. Now, this point, I would like to stop this video because this is one phase which is one slot which is completing itself by now, and rest of the story will be told to you and explained simultaneously in the next video. Thank you and enjoy reading fiction, translated fiction of this book named Indian Voices.